Hello fellow human light beings. Welcome back to the Michael Denny channel. So today we are going to be talking about the lunar eclipse that is in Leo. This will be March 13th and 14th, I believe, this year. This is an incredibly powerful lunar eclipse. And when we pile this all together with all of the unbelievably rare and powerful astrological things that are happening, you're going to see how powerful this is. We're talking about continued uprising against the elites. We're talking about the death of the globalists' mental enslavement of Earth. Stay tuned for the whole video because we are going to go through a few different points in here which you're going to find very, very interesting. Hello and welcome. All right, so I hope you guys are doing well. Speaking for myself, I am feeling a lot of this energy that we're running into. In fact, I got quite emotional earlier today. So, yeah, we're going to talk about all that. So that I don't confuse people, yes, what we do have coming up, which is, let's see, where is that? We do have coming up this planetary conjunction and a solar eclipse. But this is, what you're looking at here is the 30th of this month. So don't confuse that with what is going to be happening in the next couple of days, which is going to be a lunar eclipse. Okay, so this is the 30th. What we're going to be talking about is going to be right here. This is the other one was the solar eclipse. Forgive me, I misspoke. The other one was the solar eclipse. That's at the end of this month. The lunar eclipse is on the 13th and the 14th. So Saturn and Sun are not yet in Pisces. Saturn and Sun are in, let's see, what actual house is that there? That's the 11th house. So the Saturn and Sun are in Aquarius. Sorry about that. So Saturn and Sun are in Aquarius. Neptune, Rahu, Venus, and Mercury up there are in Pisces. But we're going to have Ketu and Moon are going to come together here. This is Leo. And then it's going to move. This is going to be an interesting eclipse. So the Moon is going to be in the last stages of Leo and then show up in Virgo. And that's where it will completely go conjunct with Ketu. So we're going to get into all of why that's important and what all that means. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, like, comment, all those other things. All of these links are here, so don't ask me, where can I find out more about you? Well, that's why these links are continuously in your face. michaeldenny.org is the website that lets you know how to find all the stuff, including my books. If you want to get an astrological reading from me, which I suggest if you haven't had this done yet, so that you can get a mantra which will help you get through this incredibly rare, powerful time. I don't know, I've never seen anything this powerful, and I don't know when we'll ever see something this powerful ever again. I think this is completely, this is a shift. I think from the 30th on, it's very possible that after this date, people will look back, 20, 30, 40 years from now and go, yep, I remember. It was April 1st of 2025. That's when everything changed. So between now and that time, I recommend that people have a spiritual practice, meditation, qigong. Mantras are extremely helpful. The reason why mantras are helpful is because mantras allow the unconscious to become conscious. which is the goal of all therapy, the goal of all spiritual practice, is to bring what is in the unconscious to your conscious. Because the unconscious controls what you do. And unconscious means you're not aware of it. If I say to somebody, which has happened before, if I say, you're projecting such and such onto me, they'll go, I am not projecting. And I'll go, you can't say that. Nobody can say that. Even if somebody were to come to me and accuse me of projecting onto them, I can't say I'm not projecting onto you. The only thing I can say is, if I am projecting, I'm not aware of it. Because these things are unconscious. You are not aware of them. And our lives, our choices are dictated by our unconscious mind. So bringing all these things to our conscious awareness gives us conscious control over the actions that we take. And this is the single most important thing, the single most powerful thing any human being can do. It is literally the definition of consciousness, awakening, enlightenment, is having complete conscious control over all of your actions. That's it. Enlightenment is not, being able to levitate on your farts. That's not enlightenment. Being lost in bliss, that is not enlightenment. There's no shortage of people who are lost in bliss, who are incredibly unconscious and destructive. I know, I've experienced them. Throughout my life, I have had a handful of different spiritual teachers, and I'm here to tell you that they were very powerful, very wise, some of them extremely powerful, and not one of them was enlightened. Not one. I have yet to meet somebody who I consider to be fully enlightened, meaning that they are completely conscious of all the decisions and actions that they take. So what is going to happen with this astrological event that we are hurtling towards? And we're getting hit with, it would be one thing if we had this, If we had this eclipse scenario in the 30th, right? That would be enough. But what's happening is, as all those planets are piling up in Pisces there, between now and then, we're having all of these different things begin to happen. And so, what is happening right now, you don't see it here. Imagine if you see Saturn and Sun in Aquarius. That's what's happening now. And they're about to go completely combust. And I've made a video about that already, I believe. And now we are going to have, at the same time all that is happening, we are going to have a lunar eclipse in Leo, which will then move into Virgo. And so these are incredibly powerful and important times. There's never been so many astrological events happening one after the other, each one of them powerful enough to create a completely different world. They are piling on top of each other. So that is why it is such a good idea to get some kind of mantra, something that you can use so that you can work on becoming conscious. Between now and the end of this month, that's when it needs to happen. So I'm here to help you. If you want, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. And this is what I do. This is one of the main things I do, is I help people find mantras specifically for their astrological birth chart. And there's not a lot, there's a lot of mantras out there, and I can tell you from personal experience, a lot of Vedic astrologers are really good about all kinds of stuff, but that doesn't mean they know how to give you mantras. I do. So go check that out if you want to have that. I've already given the mantra out in other videos. Go watch some of the previous videos I've done. You can see the mantra that I give out. If you don't want to do that, that'll work for everybody. All right, but we are talking today about this. So this is what's happening. So up there in the corner there, that is Pisces, and down where Ketu and Moon are, that is Virgo. And right here is Leo, that is the fifth sign. So the moon will be in Leo when it starts to go eclipse. The eclipse will start here in Leo and move here to Virgo. So what does all that mean, you ask? Very good question. I'm so glad you asked me. All right, March 13th and 14th, lunar eclipse in Leo, Virgo. Karmic destruction of American elites. I didn't get the screenshot for it, but if you take a look, you can go look for it online and see where the eclipse is going to be, the lunar eclipse. It is literally the North America, the United States, is smack dab in the middle of it. Smack dab in the middle. So the lunar eclipse is going to go right over North America and down through the majority of South America. I think the eastern part of Brazil is not going to be directly in the line of the eclipse. So what happens in the United States happens everywhere else. It always happens first in the United States, and then it explodes throughout the whole world. And the reason for that is that the globalist elite, they have the majority of their infrastructure is in fact the United States government and the United States global manufacturing, the weapons manufacturers, all of that. And the United States has been the bank. Listening to what's going on in the world having to do with the Ukraine-Russia war, if you didn't know, you now know that the United States has been financing that. I have to be clear. The United States isn't financing that. If you're a United States citizen, you are financing that. $350 billion of your taxes have been gone to create the weapons and the armaments that have been given. If you live in the United States, you don't have health care. Your government does not provide health care for you. But guess what? You have paid for health care for Ukrainians. So all this is coming out, and we're seeing that. But my point is that the United States has been the financial contributor the main financial contributor to all of globalism. The truth is that all of the money of the elites is racked up in the banks in Europe. But the slave labor for the money that is being, the money laundering that is being done in the United States. And the United States workers, the citizens, they have been working and paying into this, and the banks in Europe have been using that, and they call it the Fed. I don't know if you know this, but the Federal Reserve of the United States is a privately held bank in Switzerland. It's got nothing to do with the United States. So all of your money's been going to foreign bankers who then take all that money and do all kinds of weird slush fund, weird stuff. How many trillions of dollars disappear every year? Guess where it goes? It goes to all of this nonsense. So my point is that this eclipse is going right over the United States, and the things that are going to happen here are going to explode over the rest of the world. So watch what happens. It's going to be very interesting. All right, so let's take a look here. So the lunar eclipse. So just in general, lunar eclipse means the death of the moon and the death and resurrection of the mind. Now notice I said the mind, not the intellect. So the significance of the lunar eclipse is that the mind becomes blocked off. It loses, it can't, when we look at the moon, it looks like it's being illumined from within. And that's, our mind is illumined from within. But during the eclipse, that illumination goes away. The mind goes dark. The moon goes dark. And literally our physical body gets in between our soul and our mind. So the eclipse represents the death of the mind. That's why people get oftentimes very emotionally, bent out of shape, because their emotions start going everywhere. Because it's not connected to anything. It can be a very frightening, emotionally chaotic time for a lot of people. And it also represents the death and resurrection of the mind. The mind is not the intellect. So unfortunately, we've lost the understanding of what the mind is. Westerners believe the mind is the brain. So if you talk to a doctor and you talk about the mind, they will conflate mind and brain, thinking it's the same thing. So the intellect is not the mind. The intellect is a Latin word. It means to pick apart from among. And in fact, the word to read in Latin is leggere, to pick apart. Because Latin didn't used to have sentences or punctuation. It was just a bunch of letters strewn together. And you had to pick apart the specific words. So if you were a Roman and you were reading a Latin inscription, you would know when one word stopped and another word started. Your brain had the ability to pick apart from among. So that's what the intellect does. It intellegere. It's to pick apart from among. You use your intellect to avoid your feelings. That's why psychopaths are brilliant, supposedly. But the idea is that we think that they're these brilliant. They're usually not as brilliant as we think they are. But what they are is they're completely disconnected from their emotions. So they overthink everything. And this is why a lot of really intelligent people who have book smarts are no good with their emotions. And they use their intellect to hide from their feelings. So this is not about the death of the intellect. It's about the death of the mind. And the mind is it is not your brain. It is a portal between your ability to think and perceive here in the third dimension and your higher self. It is the mind that allows us to meditate. So meditation is associated with the mind. The brain has nothing to do with that. The intellect has nothing to do with that. The mind is our connection to our emotions, to our intuition. So the lunar eclipse is the death of that and the resurrection. So the reason why lunar eclipses are so powerful when it comes to when they come, why the Vedics and others, they look forward to these and they meditate. They do rituals. It's because this is a death and a resurrection. You can get rid of the old and you can create the new. But you have to do it with consciousness. Again, this is why mantras are one of the most powerful tools, because mantras bring to your consciousness, truths about yourself. You have awarenesses. And so it's important to be doing this work so that during these shifts, we can ascend. Now, if you're the average person and you're attached, when these come along, you will take actions that will dig you deeper into your attachment, which will push things deeper into your unconscious mind. So this is why a lot of people, even like say in the Vedic religion, are afraid of eclipses. But that's only for people who aren't staring straight into the spirit, this is not, we're not talking about people who are willing to die to their ego, go through the difficult work. If you're willing to do that, like the Aghoris do, if you're willing to do that, then these eclipses are portals. And they say that power spiritual power is magnified 100 or 1,000 times or something like that. Whatever it is, these are portals to transformation if we are willing to look within. So it's a time to take the mind and give it the ability to expand up to the next level. We are going to experience probably one of the most powerful lunar eclipses perhaps in history. So an eclipse, both solar and lunar eclipse, are alignment of, in this case the moon, lunar eclipse is alignment of the mind, the body, and the soul. It's when the moon and the earth and the sun end up in a line. And so the earth is the body, it's right smack dab in the middle. Right now it is. Because the earth is going to block the light of the sun on the moon. So this is an alignment of soul, body, and mind all together. That's another reason why these things are so powerful. So you have two choices. You can either reset your mind, body, soul, or you can stay attached and deepen your unconscious behavior. I already mentioned that. This lunar eclipse is going to be centered over the USA. I already said that. What happens in the USA spreads across the world. This lunar eclipse is caused by Ketu, the spiritually focused destroyer. So, we talked about Rahu. I made a whole video about what Rahu had to say about who he was in the video that if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's called I Channel Rahu. And I explained to you what he showed me about who he really is and who the being that is actually, Rahu and Ketu are one being. But in the third dimension, they get split up into two. But in their higher dimensional form, they are one being. And so Rahu explained who he is and who these two beings are. So Rahu is going to be in charge of the solar eclipse at the end of this month. Right now, Ketu is in charge of the lunar eclipse. So, let's see, what did we want to talk about there? So who is Ketu? Ketu is the spiritually focused destroyer. Remember again, what Rahu wants to do is Rahu is the force that brings consciousness, brings souls. You know, I don't know if anybody, if this is something that even goes around anymore. When I was a kid, you know, what you told kids, you know, if kid says, how did I get here? Or how do babies get here? The parents would say, oh, the stork brought you. And you see it in old cartoons where a stork is flying in and there's, you know, it's got a little baby wrapped up, you know, in a diaper on his beak and drops him down. That's where the babies come from. The stork brings you. So the being that brings souls into this world is Rahu. Rahu brings, you can't come into the third dimension. You cannot be incarnated here on earth without Rahu. It won't happen. Rahu is the portal. And what Rahu uses to bring the soul, to lead the soul into manifestation, is depending on where your soul is in its development, it's your attachments, your karma, your what your soul wants to accomplish. If you have unfinished business in this world from previous lives, that's going to drive you back here. If you have big dharmic business, if you have something that your soul wants to accomplish and achieve, then Rahu is the force that uses that to pull you literally into a body. You can't come into a body without Rahu doing that. Ketu is what takes you out of this world. And wherever Ketu sits, that means that was an exit point for you in a previous life. And it's the tail is swishing as it's going through, because it's one. Here's the line between, let's say this is 5D and this is Earth 3D. So what the snake comes through, and first the head comes through, which is Rahu, and then the snake comes all the way through and then goes back out and pulls you back here. But as Rahu is over here, the tail is swishing as it's going back into non-physical manifestation. So Rahu is the destroyer. His tail swishes and destroys wherever he is as he's moving out of that house in your chart back into the higher dimensions. So wherever Ketu is, it means destruction of the third dimension, and it means spiritually destroying it. So it means it's literally like I've been saying this for a long time, ever since I've been doing my interdimensional communications with. When you communicate with higher dimensional beings, a piece of you dies every time. Because in order to connect with that, part of your third dimensional mind has to be destroyed. The people who are having the hardest time communicating with light beings are the people who are the most firmly attached in the third dimension. I was one of those people. I had to do CE5 3 times before I became aware. The first time I did it, I have, if you watch that video, How I Became an Extraterrestrial, in the Aliens playlist, you can see that I have audio and video evidence that I'm communicating with extraterrestrials. But I didn't notice it. I didn't even see it. I talked myself out of it. The stuff I did see, I talked myself out of. And it wasn't until the third time where the mantis being showed up and cracked me open, and it almost destroyed me. But that was because my third dimensional protective barrier had to get cracked open. So that's Ketu. That's a very powerful form of Ketu. So the best way to deal with Ketu is to surrender to it. Open yourself up to it. And this is why you see Aghoris in India who are naked and they eat out of skulls. It's not because they're evil and they're into murder or mayhem. It's symbolic. It means that they want to die to their third dimensional ego so that they can experience the truth. That's what that means. So Ketu represents this. So this eclipse is in Leo, Virgo, which is destruction and karmic transformation of the elites. All right, so the sign of Leo is the sign of the ruling class. It's originally the sign of the king. And the significator of it is the sun. So the sun, among other things, represents the king, because the soul is the king of the body. Just like the sun, and the sun represents the soul, but the sun is the king of our solar system, the ruler of our solar system. The soul is the ruler of our body and our mind. So this eclipse is bringing a destruction, a reset to the, in the world that we live now, there aren't kings or queens, really. There's a globalist elite that is running the world. So this is going to be a reset. Now, that's happening, and it moves from Leo into Virgo. Virgo represents the everyday manifested reality. It represents following the law, doing things the right way, following, when the king makes a proclamation, what happens is the judges and the lawmakers come around and they write it into law. It represents healing, but not spiritual healing. It represents healing from the pharmaceuticals, not the kind of pharmaceuticals we talk about, but for the right order of herbs. You can't. It's not about doing what we can do, which is put ourselves in the right mind and the body balances itself. No, this is taking the exact formula of the exact amount of herbs in the exact amount of proportions, etc., etc. It has to follow the rules. So this lunar reset is going to be the elites, and it's going to come in the form of revealing the true path. So there's going to be huge revelations, as there are now, but it's just starting. Huge, major revelations about how the, whatever you want to call it, the dark force elites are not following the truth. They're not following the right path. They are completely on the wrong path, and this is going to be revealed as a result of this. So we also have Saturn and Sun combust in Aquarius, which is the rebellion of people against the elites. Now, somebody got confused. I see your comments, and I see when you delete them, and somebody got confused because I talked about this. So let's make sure we understand what we're talking about. And if we're talking about at the end of the month, you're going to see that Saturn and Sun are in Pisces, but that's on the 30th. We're talking about the 13th and the 14th. So the 13th and the 14th, we are going to have Saturn and Sun combust. That means they're on the almost on the exact same degree. And I believe what happens is the day after this, Saturn and Sun become combust. So watch that video. I believe I made a video about it. Watch that video, because that's happening right after this. Right after this eclipse, then Saturn and Sun become combust. But they're already, as you can see, they're 28 and 29 degrees. They're basically combust there, which means that energy is going to be in the eclipse. And so Saturn and Sun is the battle between the king and all of his subjects. The battle between the elites and the working class, the average people, the masses. And it's in Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign where the masses rise up and overtake the elites. And they create a heaven on earth society. So what's happening is that the old structure of the elites creating a slave class. Again, you heard me go off about it. Somebody was, and I completely agree with them. Somebody was talking about how they were hearing about this potential of Doge giving at least a $5,000 check to all taxpayers. And this person was going off and said, $5,000? I just found out that billions of dollars has been going to doing all kinds of things that I didn't agree to. I didn't agree to pay millions of dollars to do a play on, sexual identity in another country. I didn't choose to pay for $350 billion going to fight wars. I didn't choose to pay for any of that. So I don't want $5,000. I want every single penny that I've ever paid in taxes given back to me, because you have spent far more than what I've put into taxes combined. So I want it all back. That's the mindset here. This is the mindset of the people. Don't just want for the government to just back off and give me some space. This is, no, we're taking you out. I want everything that you have because you've taken everything from me. I want it all back. You can't have anything from me anymore. You're done. It's over. That's what's coming. That is Saturn and Sun combust in Aquarius. The battle between the masses and the ruling class. Jupiter and Mars are still aspecting on the eclipse in Virgo. So this is spiritual warfare and transformation. So again, we still have this Jupiter and Mars. If you know anything about Vedic astrology, you know why, and there's why they're aspecting Ketu and Moon there. Just trust me, they are. And Jupiter is the priest, represents spirituality and truth that goes beyond words, spiritual liberation, spiritual awareness, everything having to do with what a true priest does. And it represents giving, represents expansion and resources and well-being on all levels. And Mars represents transformation. The true path of the warrior is to destroy negativity and to transform it. So you have, when both of these come together, and they happen to be friends, Jupiter and Mars are very good friends. When they come together, the warrior takes the lead from the priest. The priest will tell the warrior how to go and transform the world. And so both of these powers are now faced here where Ketu and Moon are in Virgo. But before that, it'll start here in Leo, which means, again, the reset. And the other aspect of this is this has to do with the mental conditioning that the elites have been using against human beings. So we have been programmed, we have been hypnotized, our thinking has been completely controlled. So much so, I mean, I forgive me for saying it as often as I do, but again, the whole idea of money, it is absolutely a post-hypnotic suggestion. People believe that money exists. They believe it so much that they'll off themselves if they don't have enough of this idea. It's just an idea. It has no physical, real existence. It wouldn't exist if we stopped agreeing that it existed. It's a fantasy. And it is a hypnosis of the entire unconscious mind of the human race. So these are the kinds of things that are going to start falling apart. The idea that money is a real thing. It's not. It is a tool that is used to control people. Period. End of story. It has always been that. I've said this before. I haven't talked about it in a while, but do you want to know where money came from? I can tell you very quickly where the idea of money came from. All of our ancestors used to be hunter-gatherers, which meant that they got everything they needed on a daily basis from the earth. They went out and fished, or they went out and hunted, or they gathered herbs, or they grew plants and harvested the plants. Everything came from the earth. And if you needed something, you went out and got it from the earth. And there was no need, like me, if I need something, recently I went and looked at how much money I had in the bank to see what I could buy at the grocery store. What can I afford? I have to eat. I can't do that without money. That's a completely made up nonsensical thing. So what ended up happening is that, for instance, this is what happened in Greece. What started happening is that the hunter-gatherers in the area of what is now Greece, they started learning how to farm. So they learned how they didn't have to go out and just pick a few bushels of wheat or whatever. They learned how to plant it and create it. Well, before you knew it, they had acres and acres of all of this food. And so they would go and harvest it, and there would just be piles and piles of it. They couldn't eat it. They absolutely couldn't eat it within a week or a month. So they had to store it someplace. So they stored it in these things called grain silos. Now what started happening is that all of the other tribes around them started going, man, those guys have years worth of food. Let's just go take some of it. So what started to happen is that the farmers who farmed all this now had to become soldiers. And so they would stand around and they would guard the grain silos. Now there's nobody to farm. So what do? They go and they conquer those other tribes. They make them into slaves. The slaves then are doing all of the labor. They're doing all of the farming. And it just keeps growing and growing. And before you know it, you have an empire. And then you have the people live in cities and they have to create walls around the cities. And they're completely disconnected from the earth that they used to be connected to. The earth that used to give them what they needed on a daily basis. Now they have all this time to get lost in their intellect. And they start writing and, doing all kinds of other stuff. That's where it all came from. And so money is what you used to what used to be trading. You now have this thing called money. Oh, you want some grain? Give us some money. And money isn't about wealth. It's about, I recognize you and I give you status in my world. Oh, I don't like you. I'm not going to give you any of these tokens, at that time, I'm not going to give you these shiny coins. I'm not going to give you any of that because I don't like you. So you're not going to get access to all of our resources. Oh, you can because and that's all it is. It's just a way to control you. It's never been anything else. This is going to come down. I don't know how long it's going to take, but this idea is going to come crashing down. So Jupiter and Mars are aspecting on the eclipse on Virgo, which is spiritual warfare transformation. And then we have the planetary alignment in Pisces aspecting the eclipse in Virgo. So we still have all of those planets. We have Venus and Mercury and Rahu and Neptune staring straight down here at Ketu and Moon in Virgo. So that is putting a lot of pressure on this as well. And all of this, again, is just one. We've got Saturn, Sun, which will then go completely combust, I believe, right after that. And then later on, we have all the planets lining up in Pisces there, which is going to have a huge impact. And then we have the solar eclipse. And then we have planets moving into other houses, which will mean the beginning of things, which I haven't even started talking about yet. So again, this has got to be, I've never seen anything this powerful. And I'm feeling it. I don't know if you're feeling it, but I am feeling huge on a daily basis. My energy and my emotions are going all over the place. The light beings are hinting. They've been showing up the past few days, and every time they do, they're telling me, okay, you got to get prepared because big stuff is coming. And they're telling me we're going to start giving you a huge amount of energy, and then after that, so they are leading up that something huge is coming. But according to them, we haven't felt it yet. But we will. So there's a possibility for just about anything. In fact, I find it very coincidental that now all of a sudden New Jersey and Long Island are on fire. I don't know if you know that, but there's a huge fire in New York and New Jersey now. It's crazy. You think that this is happening coincidentally? No, this has been orchestrated. It's been orchestrated by the people who are losing everything. And they're trying very hard to create their 1984 dystopian society. So all of that is going to get revealed, and there might be some clashes. So there might be more things happening before this is all over. So the best thing that we can be doing right now between now and the 1st of April is to be doing our spiritual practices. Make that your number one focus. That is my suggestion. Again, if you want help, go here to astrology.thunderwizard.com. I can give you a mantra specifically for you based on your chart that you should be doing, just doing it all day, every day. And if you haven't already, you can go here to these websites. I just made a video about all of the stuff that's here on thunderwizard.com. I made a video about that, so you know, people say it's too much, it's overwhelming, I don't know what. So I made a video to explain what's on there, all of the different resources that are available. Now is the time. If you've been waiting, I've been waiting to do the, pick whatever stuff I've been teaching or wanting to work with me or whatever. Now's the time. Now's the time to do it. There isn't a better time. And, my understanding is after the 1st, I don't know what's going to happen, but if there are going to be people who are going to choose to go in the wrong direction, it's going to be now. So people are really, that split is happening. People are either going to start choosing to follow their spirit, or they're going to start choosing to go down the path of attachment and destruction. So I hope that these videos help you to feel empowered and emboldened to go in the right direction, which is be willing to do the work, be willing to look at yourself, be willing to die to your ego. And everything I do on my channel is to give you the tools to help you do that. So I'm here if you need it. All right. So let's see what we got here. I'm happy to take questions, but bear in mind, I'm probably not going to like them. Most questions I find I get impatient. As people, two most important things before I even look at these questions, the two most important things in your life: pay attention and put effort. Those are usually the causes of all of your problems. You're either not paying attention or you're not putting effort. So let's take a look and see what we got here. So Cats and Me question: I'm still doing the holding the 3 ones meditation, but every time it gets too intense, I chicken out. How can I push through to be more courageous? I don't know how many times I can answer this question for you, Cats and Me. When have I ever said you're supposed to get over your feelings? Name one time I've ever told you to do that. It's not about your feelings. It's about your actions. So how can you push through? You just do. I wish that there was an easier way to do it. I have to do it. I'm no different than you. Every single day, I have to get up and I have to face all of my crazy garbage, my fears, my attachments, my resistance. And I have to take actions and do the things that I don't like doing. I mean, I was just, you guys may not know this, but I'm going to say sometimes 50% of the time, I don't want to do the live guided interdimensional meditations. The resistance comes up in me, and there's just so much resistance. And my mind looks for reasons to tell me not to do it. It's because every time I do it, I die a little bit. It's not a comfortable thing. And I wake up and I'm back in this world again. And living in two worlds is challenging for me. Maybe for some people it's easy, and my hair is off to you if that's the case. But I'm a very human being. So I suppose I'm that way so that I can be an example. So there's nothing. I don't have anything to tell you. You just do it. My ancestors said those who die in battle go to Valhalla. They didn't say those who get over their fear no, they didn't say that. They didn't say those who go into battle and aren't afraid. They didn't say that. They said those who die in battle go to Valhalla, meaning you're going to be scared. Everything in you is going to tell you not to do this, but you do it anyway. Those who take action contrary to their fears, their impulses, and their resistance, those people succeed. It has nothing to do with how you feel. Some people have less feelings than others. Oh well, We only have control over what we do. We don't have control over what we feel. We don't have control over what we think. We don't have control over our impulses. We have some control over what we focus on, but there is one thing that we have complete control over, and that is our actions. You know, people who suffer from, what is that? People have unconscious tics. What is that? Anyway, I forget the name of it because when I do these things, I can't think straight. But you know, people who tick and say things and they throw out cuss words. If you ask them, they'll say that they can't help it. That it's an overwhelming impulse that they don't have the ability to stop. But there has been, you know, the Nexium cult. You know, that guy was a complete narcissist. And these people were coming to him, and he decided he was going to cure one guy. And sure enough, because that guy trusted him so much, he was able to come to the realization that he actually did have control over those impulses. He had the ability to not act on those impulses. Even though, you know, according to doctors and psychologists, it's impossible. They literally can't stop themselves, but it's just not true. Somebody told them, well, you know, you can't help yourself. Or they told themselves, I can't help myself. In fact, that guy, I'm not speaking for all the other people, but that guy, when he was asked why he did it, if he really looked in, he realized he was doing it to get attention. Even negative attention. You know, so the point is that any one of us can change if we make the decision and we follow that decision with action, even if those actions are literally the most difficult things we've ever done. So you can keep asking me forever and ever, how can I get over my feelings? My answer will always be the same. It's not about what you feel, it's about what you do, about what you decide. And then you say, I've also been attempting to get into physical shape. Well, I don't know what that means. Are you attempting to work out? Does that mean you drive to the gym and then, you know, turn around and go home? Well, I tried to work out. I was attempting. When you're looking at food and you're making a decision, am I going to eat, you know, an entire chocolate cream pie, or am I going to have, you know, some turkey and vegetables? Well, I tried to not eat but I ate the dessert anyway. I tried. You know, Yoda says there is no try, there's only do. So, you know, I mean, you can talk to yourself this way if you want. Again, I don't know what you're doing, but if you make the decision, you can do it. It means you're going to have to be disciplined and do a bunch of things you don't want to do. It's just the way it is. There's no way around that. All right, let's see. You say I'm extra sensitive. It makes it a little more difficult. How do you know? You don't know that. I know that you know that you're sensitive, but you don't know that it's more difficult for you than it is for anybody else. You don't know that. You haven't been in my body. So you don't know how difficult it is for me. But now you've created an excuse for yourself. You're different. Oh, it's harder for me. So I can screw up. I can choose not to follow through. The world doesn't care. This is what, you know, woke people don't understand. This is what all victim mentality people don't understand, whatever brand of victim mentality it is that the world doesn't care. I had an acting teacher, you know, when people would try to get into character and they would try and play the part, and if they didn't, you know, do it, and they would try to explain why they couldn't, you know, play that character right or get into character, he would say, the world is not interested in excuses, only results. That's just the way it is. You can't give yourself excuses. If you want something, if you don't want it, that's different. Nobody is forcing you to get into shape or to meditate. Nobody's forcing you to do that. That's your decision. You want to do it? Great. There's only one thing that has to happen. You have to do it. The fact that it's difficult for you is completely meaningless. The world doesn't go, oh, well, it's hard for him, so the world doesn't care. Doesn't care. You got to climb a cliff in order not to fall and die. Gravity doesn't care that it's more difficult for you to climb the cliff. You either climb it or you don't. And you can have all the feelings you want in the process. What else? So I don't see a question there. Thordis says, can you talk about the relationship between Rahu and Ketu? How Rahu is gazing at Ketu and what's happening there? I think you've mentioned it. Found it interesting. How Rahu is gazing at Ketu. Well, that's always the case. Rahu is always looking at Ketu. Ketu is not looking at Rahu because Ketu doesn't have a head. And the reason for that is that Rahu is Ketu's head. Remember, it's a snake it's a snake that's coming into two different, it's coming around in two different dimensions. So I don't remember what I was saying, but Rahu is aspiring to master something. And when you've mastered it, then what you have is Ketu. Ketu has mastered it. And once you master something, you don't care about it anymore. It's not important to you. Anyway, I wish I could answer that question, but I'm not remembering exactly what I was saying, and so I don't have a context to be able to go any deeper than that. Okay, so Cats and Me says, no, I'm actually going to the gym for real. Then stop saying you're attempting to do it. If you're going to the gym, then you are in the process of getting into shape. I hope you have a goal and you're going after that goal. Great. So it's you're not attempting it, you're doing it. So listen, there's nothing, this is why spiritual disciplines, and it's so different than in the West. Modern Western spirituality doesn't have any of the discipline, which is why, I was just thinking about this today because I hear people, different people I've interacted with talk about spiritual communities, and they, say how, people in the spiritual community are kind of off, and I'm like, but I don't have a spiritual community. And the reason is because I'm not into spirituality for any other reason other than I have practical goals that I want to achieve. And this is what is great about the traditional Eastern practices. Unlike Western practices, which came out of the Catholic Church and Christianity, which was a new thing that was designed to completely screw with your head and get you out of connection to yourself and to your energy. But, you want to learn yoga, you got to do it every day. You want to learn Zen meditation, you got to do it every day. You want to become a Qigong master, you got to do it every day. You want to have your Kundalini rise, you got to chant every day. You want to get the spiritual benefit, the siddhi that comes from doing mantras. And some mantras you got to do 21,000 repetitions before you get the benefit from it. There's a goal that you have to go after, and you have to do it, certain times, either every day or twice a day, or you don't get to talk yourself out of it. In those traditions, you don't get to say, I'm doing my best, or I'm kind of doing it. You're either doing it or you're not doing it. And that's just the way that it is. And the reason why that's important is because it gives you something to do, and the fact that you don't like the way that it feels is completely irrelevant. And people used to know that. There was never a discussion about whether or not it was convenient for me, or whether I wanted to, or whether it was something that, fit within my lifestyle, or none of that. Yeah, I was looking at, again, the stuff comes up, all of this, the automated everything, the AI everything is completely taking the soul away from people. And some, I don't know if I was watching YouTube or something, but some ad came up about this app on your phone that wakes you up, and then it tells you it's time to have coffee, and then it tells you it's time to have breakfast, and then it tells you it's time to go to work. And I'm thinking to myself, you really need something to tell you this? You don't have the ability to just within yourself have the ability to know when you're supposed to do something? We've lost all of that. This is the modern world. And in the ancient world, there was no such thing as, I don't know if I wish I had more. It didn't exist. And so this is why spiritual practices are so important. This is why if you go to thunderwizard.com and you do that's what the 90-day warrior lightning qigong is all about. That's what all of the stuff that, if I take you through it on a daily basis, that's what it's about. To just show up and do what you need to do. Who cares how you feel? Doesn't matter. Not that you can't have your feelings. You can have as many feelings as you want. But if you want the results, your feelings are completely irrelevant to the situation. All right, what else? All right, so I don't see any more questions here. Cats and me, yeah, you're getting some. Anyway, again, I am venting. This is what happens when I do live streams, but there it is. Anyway, that's it, my friends. I hope you're doing well. I thank you all for showing up, and you guys know what to do. If you want to support the channel, go to all of these places are here for you, and follow through. But most importantly, the thing that I recommend everybody be doing, have some kind of daily spiritual practice, mantra, qigong, meditation, I don't care what it is. And at the same time, please show up for these live guided interdimensional meditations. It's free, and we do them live every Wednesday and Saturday at 8:30 p.m. And if you're not able to make the live stream, you can show up. It's archived into the live section on this channel, and you can go and watch them and be a part of it. These are probably the two most powerful things I think that can be done, and I think they're the two most important things that anybody can be doing right now. All right, my friends, that's it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. That's all for me. I wish you all the best, and I will see you all very, very soon.